Well, friends, if you have a dark soul and pockets that aren't that deep, then hold on to your coffins because today is a very special episode. All right, you may leave. Well, boys and ghouls, you must have made a wrong turn and ended up in my dark laugh cry DIY lair. Because today I am hitting you with another episode of Design Drama, the series where I give virtual makeovers to people who are short on inspiration and budget. And today I am tackling the biggest challenge of my life. A while back, my lovely subscriber Riley hit me up because she is a dark witch who loves all things gothic and ghoulish. She likes vintage horror and damask fabrics and whimsigoth and the movie The Love Witch because it has the most amazing 1960s witchy decor you've ever seen. And Riley herself basically wants to live in a Victorian goth parlor. There's only two problems. One, she just moved into this apartment, which is basically a white box. Number two, she's on a tight budget. She has about $1,000 to turn her living room into the gothic parlor of her dreams. So what is a witch to do? Well, the good news is she's very thrifty, she's very crafty, she likes to source things secondhand. So I'm gonna do my best to give her direction for an affordable vision. But before we do, I need a drink. Blood of my enemies. Now on this channel before, I have talked about some of the really cool goth styles that are starting to creep up. We're seeing whimsigoth, which is like super kind of whimsical witchy. We see tropigoth, which is goth meets tropical kind of art deco. We've also seen dark academia take the world by storm. Riley likes all these things, but she also tends to lean more towards like a traditional gothic dark vibe. So when you are trying to capture this style, these are the basic things you need to remember. Number one, gothic is a lot of Victorian influence. So everything in the home needs to be embellished. No clean modern lines here. You want flourishes, details on every piece of furniture you bring in. You also need a ton of texture, especially if you're working with a darker color palette that can tend to absorb all the light and make everything look flat. So think high gloss black lacquer with velvet, with fringe, with satin, with wood. Basically, think of a regular room and then add 5 times as many objects, finishes, and textures. Now here's some pros with this style. It is not that popular or mainstream. Everybody wants mid-century or transitional organic design, which means that everybody is trying to get rid of these antiques or antique style furniture, whether they got it from their parents or their grandma. So this stuff is flooding like secondhand marketplaces like Facebook Marketplace, and you can find it shockingly cheap or even free because sometimes people are just desperate to get rid of it. Another great thing is that with a can of black spray paint, you can transform almost anything. So for a goth girl, $7 in spray paint can change your life. Now I do want to say both Riley and I are in LA, where we do have the privilege of having a lot of stuff available on secondhand apps. And sometimes we have access to more decor or even like set pieces that maybe wouldn't be available in other cities. Here are some of the cons/challenges of this design style and this project. It's really about layering and adding in a lot of things that feel both grand and cozy. That requires a lot of actual objects, which can really eat up your budget. So if you can't add a bunch of objects, you do need to add really embellished items so that visually the room feels more full or interesting. Now for this project, we have a tight budget and we are working from scratch because she has almost nothing. So we're gonna try to do the most we can. And finally, when it comes to goth decor, it can be a little tricky and there's a very fine line because it can very easily become kind of like cheesy haunted house. Things can feel really on the nose. So my goal is to evoke the feeling that you are the ghost in the haunted house. You are the sickly Victorian child. You are the little orphan. You are the elder widow. So here's my goal for this project. Make the most dramatic transformation impact we can with the budget we have. Also give her a kind of like base to build on as she grows and continues to collect things or source things. And finally, give her things that are within a reasonable price point that she could source, thrift, flip, whatever. So dearly beloved, let's dive in. So inspired by goth, whimsigoth, and especially this movie, The Love Witch, which again, you guys have got to see just for the aesthetic alone, Riley did start by giving me a color palette she was really drawn to, and that is black, purple, red, and green. These are very dark, very moody, very jewel tone colors. You know, think of a beautiful bruise as it heals from like black to red. Anyways, so we're starting with this white box, and there is one thing that Riley does actually already own, which is this rug. This floral rug is great. It's large, it's a bold pattern, and it already has the black, purple, green, and red of our color palette in it. So working with that rug as the base of the room, we're gonna start with a very high drama moment. We're gonna paint the whole room purple. Yes, including the ceilings. Usually in a goth room, the instinct is to paint it black, but I actually really like a really deep purple because it gives you that same kind of dark, moody vibe, and it's a little bit warmer. It makes you feel like you're already in a pretty coffin or kind of like jewel box. And because she's gonna have a lot of black in the room already, it creates a nice base and a kind of slight color variation as you're bringing in a lot of these like dark tones. That way it's not just all like one black void. Now again, I'm gonna shout out the movie The Love Witch because it really uses this like purple and red palette, which is such a beautiful color combo that is not seen that often, and that's also something we're gonna play with. Now for those of you that are worried that painting the entire room dark purple is going to enclose it and make it feel claustrophobic, yes, we know that's what we're going for. Riley also told me that she kind of low-key hates the sun and blocks out her windows anyway, so this is the right choice for us in this moment. Now, because you walk right into the living room and you see that back wall, I want to continue this high drama moment by adding in these purple and black damask curtains. Riley told me how much she loves damask patterns, and if you don't know, damask is a pattern that's like woven into the fabric, so it already kind of gives a natural like added texture dimension. You usually see it in kind of monochrome looks, but in this case we're gonna do that purple and the black contrasting, and I think it really works because this purple actually has this like sheen to it, which plays with the light. It introduces a new texture. I'm also such a sucker for like tone on tone variation, and again, that's why I think the dark purple was the right choice. Now these curtains are actually on Amazon, but you could also thrift curtains. I also love stacking different pattern curtains side by side to like fill it out and give a lot of volume. I did this in a Moody makeover, which I will link below. We did solid velvet with like a patterned curtain next to it. I really like that because it gives it kind of an eclectic bohemian look. So that's also an option she can do if she wants to thrift some different stuff. But we're not just doing those curtains. Oh no, ma'am. In this world, more is more. So we're gonna add this really dramatic black lace valance to add in more of that texture. In Riley's inspiration photos, there was a lot of black lace. This is also another like large strip you can get on Amazon. It's really fun to layer in. You can like swoop and swag it how you want. Again, you can also thrift scarves or other like types of fabric to like add this in. What matters most, again, is layers. Now, Riley doesn't have any furniture yet, so we're really building the room from scratch. And there is one piece I want to put in before a coffee table, before a couch. There's one piece that every witch needs, and that is a fireplace / sacrificial altar. Now we are gonna have a lot of black in this room, so I did want something that was like a nice, rich, detailed wood. Now listen, everyone in the world wants an apartment with a charming fireplace, but very few affordable LA apartments have them. But let me tell you guys, you can just find a mantle or like fireplace surround on Facebook Marketplace. Now, they are not necessarily gonna be wood like this sample mantle in this picture, but I have an even more brilliant hack. Now let me tell you about the life hack of all life hacks. That is the day that I realized that you could just make your own fireplace. It changed my life, it lowered my rent, it lowered my blood pressure. I myself built a faux fireplace out of foam in my own living room. I will also link that video below. If you cannot buy a mantle for under $100 on Facebook Marketplace, this is what you can do. You guys know hutches, right? Large, big, clunky hutches. Nobody has them anymore because no one has room. And the thing about hutches is that they often come in two pieces. They're the top part and the bottom part. So what you can do, you can take the top half of a hutch and you can turn it into a fake mantle. For example, these are two types of hutch tops I found. These were $50 or they were free. Guys, everybody is giving these hutches away for free. You can take the doors off the front, or even cooler, if you're a goth queen, you could take some doors off on the front, and on the side with the glass, you could cover it in fake stained glass. You can fill it with fake battery operated candles, and you can have the coolest freaking antique looking mantle you've ever seen. And this video should be over now because I don't know what more I could tell you. That is the best thing I've ever come up with. Okay, now we can build out the rest of the room. It's time to add in a sofa. Now again, people are desperate to give away antique sofas. So for under $200, you can absolutely get the most outrageous, insane, cool, gothic, antique looking sofa you've ever seen. And the key to the sofa in this room is that it really either needs to be a really kind of like outrageous Victorian looking one, or something with a really classic style, which would be like a Chesterfield sofa with rolled arms and or velvet tufting. Tufting's very Victorian, and again, it really adds that texture that we are desperately looking for. Also, velvet sofas are so popular that more and more people are getting rid of them. Black velvet's not that hard to find. This is not sponsored by Facebook Marketplace. I'm just telling you guys the things I'm seeing out in the wild in my studies. Also, if you get an antique sofa, it is very easy to fabric dye fabric. So you could actually like paint your sofa basically. And if you're painting it black, it's so hard to mess up. You don't have to worry about like what the color is gonna come out like. So for our purposes, we are adding in a black velvet sofa. And of course that sofa needs a coffee table, but because we already have a lot of square things in the room, ma'am, please don't. Now, I don't want to have too many kind of square boxy shapes, so I'm going to add in a like oval or round table, and we're going to make sure that it's like a high gloss black lacquer. Again, it's very easy to find a coffee table like this. You just want really ornate legs and detailing, and with a can of high gloss black spray paint, you can make your own lacquer coffee table like that. Now, the thing is, we don't want everything black in this room, so we are gonna do a pop of red in the form of this cool accent chair. If you think of that back curtain as a frame, it's kind of like its own little like framed vignette, so that's why I wanted to make sure that there was something in front of it that was like high contrast, that looked really beautifully framed. This chair is red velvet tufted, but I also saw satin, brocade, damask. And even if you can't find the perfect red chair, you can change basically the color of any chair by throwing a cool textile or scarf or blanket over it. That said, Riley did also mention that she loves bats, so you know I had to give her this really cute little bat throw pillow. Now Riley also already has a standing floor lamp, so I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna add a green Victorian lampshade to it. You can also DIY it by thrifting the frame and changing the fabric yourself. Again, you can also throw a bunch of scarves over it. But I wanted to add some texture, so that's why we have this green with the fringe. Now that said, I still want to add in a little more coziness, a little texture, and Riley did mention that she really does love animal print, so I am throwing in this really cute round leopard print ottoman. You can get an ottoman for cheap, you can cover it in any fabric you want. And to keep going with our textile vibe, we're adding in some more throw pillows. These purple and black ones are actually bats. I love that it's kind of subtle and you wouldn't notice it unless you looked at it for a long time. Also adding in some kind of fun whimsy ones. We have this cool eyeball pillow and we have this funky rose pillow. And for throw pillows, you can thrift these, you can change the fabric, you can paint them, you can sew them. I did a whole episode on thrifting t-shirts and turning them into pillows. I will link that episode below too. So I think she can easily DIY or come up with some cool, fun, funky throw pillows that are a little whimsical or have some cool embellishment or texture. And also you want to think about like size, shape, and kind of proportion to each other. Now, we already do have this rug in the room, but for a little bit more of a cozy, eclectic vibe, I love layering rugs, so I am gonna throw down this black faux sheepskin rug. It's super cozy, and I personally love faux sheepskin rugs in front of fireplaces. I have one in front of my own. Now moving on, there is one thing in the world that every little goth girl dreams of, and that is having her very own coffin. And on Riley's mood board, she had a lot of like coffin shaped items, and I was really hoping that I could find a kind of epic coffin moment. And you know I did. I found for $80 this coffin shaped bookcase on Facebook Marketplace. In fact, the guy's selling like 10 of them. So we're gonna tuck her kitty corner and we'll style her up because I think it's fun to just have like a really wild statement piece of furniture. Now that said, our walls are looking kind of sad and bare and minimalist, and it is likely that Riley's going to put her TV above the fireplace. I know that's a controversial thing, and that's a whole other video for a whole other day. But because TVs are not the most Victorian vibe, we're gonna turn this into a very epic goth gallery wall. You can throw anything in this: paintings, book pages, animal bones, fake skulls. And ideally you can add more candelabras or corbels or sconces, but at the very least, it's very easy to just go to the dollar store, go crazy on a bunch of different frames and just fill them with any crazy stuff you see. Now, on the opposite wall, on the sofa wall, we could continue our crazy goth gallery wall moment. And part of me wanted to give her extra shelving, but it is just more and more expensive. And I did want a moment to move a little bit more light around the room, even though it is very dark. And there is one very cool, very goth, kind of more unusual piece of decor you can get, and that would be mirrored cathedral arches. I was actually shocked by how many cathedral mirror arches there are online. So I think if you can find those, then it helps you break things up and add some light to the space and freak people out when they notice that you don't have a reflection. Now to cozy things up, you want to add in more creature comforts, more things that are going to layer in. So that can be books and trays and candles and jars and skulls. And my favorite, peacock feathers. Peacock feathers are such a great thing to add to a room, especially a low light room, because they feel like they're plants, but they're not. Also, peacock feathers are actually two things. There's peacock feathers, and then there's what's called peacock swords, which are the part of the feathers that are also kind of like shifty metallic, but don't have the actual peacock eye in them. That said, they're very cheap, very easy to source, and they are such a cool vibe in any room. Also, another great accessory you can find at the thrift store is any sort of silver kitchenware. Again, these are also things that people are all getting rid of because nobody really uses them. So dinner trays, old teapots, sugar dishes, things like that. They're all like cool old vintage silver, super cheap, super easy to find, and very vampire chic. Now we're almost done, but I did want to solve one problem for her, which is that there is no actual lighting in the room. And even though we want to keep it dark and moody and vibey, you still do need some overhead light. Fortunately, it's very easy to source a chandelier, whether it works or not, spray paint it black, mount it in the ceiling, but you don't have to worry about hardwiring it because you can get these remote control rechargeable light bulbs that you can screw into anything. Or you could do battery operated taper candles, but the light bulbs are going to give you more overhead light. And as one final touch, I wanted to add something to the ceiling that would also be a little extra. Ceiling medallions were very common in Victorian era. They were very like filigreed, very fancy, very embellished. And I thought that either she can source one really cheap and like command strip it to the ceiling, or she can fake one by painting on a ceiling medallion pattern. But she could do something that's almost like spider webby, or this one's wild, but you love bats so much, Riley. And I'm sorry, this Photoshop is kind of whack. Why don't we paint a kind of crazy bat themed pattern that can honestly extend as crazy as you want it to if you wanted it to look like a bunch of bats were flying out. This is also one thing you could actually source Halloween decor for if you got a bunch of little plastic bats and then had them like flying out from the ceiling medallion. I know it's wild, but you did ask for my ideas. And so my dears, that is how Riley can get from a basic white box to a kind of cool and creepy coffin. Now that said, how did we do on that $1,000 budget? Okay, here's how I priced it out at a very bare bones price point, assuming that she has some variability to thrift, source for free, and allocate her budget in different ways. So I am budgeting $160 for paint, $50 for a mantle, $30 for a gallery wall, $15 for battery operated taper candles, $80 for the coffin, $167 for the curtains and the rod, $200 for the sofa, $20 chandelier, $30 coffee table, $40 ottoman, $40 accent chair, $100 in mirrors, $30 Victorian lampshade, $40 in throw pillows, $22 throw rug, $15 peacock feathers, $30 in battery operated light bulbs, and that comes to a total of $1,069. I'm sorry I went over by $69, but it's kind of funny. So my dears, that was quite a journey. I hope you found it interesting, entertaining, hope you got some inspiration, and I hope I've converted some of you to the very dark side of decor. So thank you to Riley for letting me go crazy on this design drama. Thank you to you guys for watching. If you're interested, I have a newsletter. You can sign up below. I offer monthly DIY and design tips. I will source more design dramas in the future. And until next time, just remember, death to white box homes. Unless that's your personal style, in which case I respect you, but I cannot relate. Okay, love you, bye.